So June was a pretty good month. Obviously it's been a month since the last one of these that I've made, and hopefully you guys had a good one. Hopefully you guys are still around. But since the last one, as you know, this is like the video where I do my monthly wrap up, pretty much talking about all of the movies that I saw, the ones that I highly recommend, and even the bad ones as well. But I also like updating stuff on this little video right here, and it's another big thank you. It's like literally the last one of these videos, these monthly wrap-up videos that I made. I was thanking you guys for the 50K over at Let Me Explain, that second channel where I was just doing, my movie diary channel over there. And I know some people were like, well, what's the point of it? Thank you guys for 100,000. Like, I was literally just thanking you guys for the 50. It's now at 100,000. And the beauty of it is that, one, obviously I appreciate you guys for watching, but it's also kind of allowed the A to Z show to kind of flourish to what I want it to be. There's like a specific direction I want it to go. And it's more so of making it really a show. I want to put more production value into it. I can't be so specific with it, but 2019. But honestly, the experiment that I talked about in one of the previous ones of these, where I pretty much said that I was doing the Let Me Explain as the secondary channel, just movies, hear me out, just music, and I get how it was confusing at first, but I mean, you guys got it, and I really appreciate it. And obviously that means that there's a bunch of stuff that I want to push for the A to Z show, obviously being the one channel where I go and like break down things that are really important to me. But there's a specific little change. I know the weekly videos that you guys really like are the Twitter videos, for those who I know want to see themselves in the video, but there's something with those videos that I was always like wondering, doesn't really fit with the other A to Z show stuff. Like, I get that people want to see themselves in the video, to the point that whenever they're not in the video, they threaten me on Twitter and say they're gonna unsubscribe. That is not how you get in the video, but I do like making those videos, and I'm glad that you guys like those. So I was like thinking, does it really fit? And I was even thinking the series doesn't even have a name, and then it hit me. I'm always the one explaining things, and this is the series where I let you explain. And then because of that, I then started thinking, I'm like, well, the perfect channel where it fits is Let Me Explain. And the more that I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Perfect, because literally it's my second channel that gets more views than my main channel. But that's just a little switch that I want to do for that specific series, not getting rid of it. I know you guys like it, I'm just putting it over there, and then that way, like I said, focus on the big things that I want to do here for the A to Z show leading up to 2019. The other big thing that I want to talk about, and I know some of you guys already know because some of you guys have given me great recommendations for this, is the September road trip. A to Z on the road, Let Me Explain on the road, whichever one of the two that you like more. Pretty much we're hitting up the entire East Coast, going from Orlando all the way to like Boston, New York, and then hopefully leading it up to Toronto for TIFF. And some of you have given me great recommendations, so for those of you who know any spots throughout there, definitely just hit me up. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of the three, even here on YouTube. I like compiling a list of just like the restaurants or spots to hit, so that's something I'm going to be doing in September. So if you have any recommendations for me, the person who's always recommending stuff, highly appreciated. But the watch list, as you know, I've officially actually done the playlist. I said I was gonna do the playlist, it's down there. I've done one starting January of this year. Every single month I go through absolutely everything I've watched. You can check out the letterbox if you hate my face and my voice and you just want to see my picks. I have everything there. Yes, it varies. I had some people going, well, this was higher than Yo, like for me, the numbers don't really matter. I switch them around at whatever point that they are at that point. Everything's always shifting, but like I said, I've done this for every single month, and I go through everything, mainly because, as I always say, just because I may not like something, bringing it up to you, it may end up being your favorite movie of the year. So the way that I break it down, if this is your first time watching, is just like through the ratings of where I would watch it personally. Every movie deserves to be watched. Where? That's another question. Of course, I have all the links down below, which I forgot to mention, so if you just want to go to specific parts or just want to see the list, that's down below. But the first movie is a movie audiences loved, and that is Gadsby. Even when the movie is so on the bottom, it can still have like something good with it, and this isn't to the point that it's so bad it's good, but it was the marketing. I don't know how many of you saw the marketing. Obviously, I also have attached down below videos that I may have made to Let Me Explain or A to Z with the video, a specific movie, I mean, and this one has a doozy because the marketing team for Gadsby, for whatever reason, has the ego of they had egos of 12-year-olds, and they decided to bash every single critic who didn't like the movie while at the same time manipulating the Rotten Tomatoes score to make it seem like audiences loved Gotti. Do I personally think it's as bad as the 0% that it got? No. But it still has some of, like, the way that it's told makes absolutely no sense. The fact that they, you know what, in the 4th of July, which just happened, you know when you go out there and you pretty much just, like, shoot the fireworks footage, knowing good and damn well you're never going to see that footage again. Well, Gotti was like, no, we're definitely going to use that. They show you 240p fireworks footage in this movie. It's one of those movies that's so bad it's good, so while I don't want to recommend it, I kind of recommend it just because of how dumb it is. Ghostland, or Incident at Ghostland, is a movie that comes from the guy who did Martyrs, which people are always asking me to make a Let Me Explain on, because you guys just don't care for my mental state. So I checked this one out, knowing that it wasn't as bad as Martyrs from what some of the reviews had said, but they forgot to tell me, like, this movie is all over the place. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think some people will enjoy the story and the twists and turns that it takes. Personally, there's jump scares, and then there's just being straight up obnoxious. Like, I'll give the movie credit that it takes place in this place called Ghostland. You know, an incident happens, and there's this girl who's returning back to this place because she's a writer and she's been venting through, like, making these horror stories like Stephen King. But when she returns, maybe another incident in Ghostland is happening. And, bro, if you like it, Godspeed to you. But I got sick and tired of all of these. Yellowbirds was a Sundance flick that I caught 2 years ago, and it's like barely coming out. Jennifer Aniston produced it, and it's this, like, again, also not told in chronological order for whatever reason none of these movies want to, but it's telling you the story of this soldier that came back, and it's specifically a parent who wants to know what happened to her child when he was out at war, and you're seeing everything out of order as the soldiers, like, try to remember it. This movie came out at the time that it did because Solo was coming out and your boy was in it, so, like, I get how that worked, but for me the problem with it was the way that they told the story. Like, it's an interesting story, but they try to make more out of it than it really is. To me, you know how there's, like, some feature films that should be short films? That's this movie. You got Joaquin Phoenix playing Jesus in this movie. I don't know about him playing the Joker, but I do know that he doesn't make a good Jesus. And then you got your girl Rooney Mara, who's playing Mary Magdalene, which is what the story is about. It's Mary Magdalene's perspective of everything that happened in the New Testament. Except I don't know what translation they were watching or reading for this movie, because this is not for the PureFlix crowd, which, you know, ain't a bad thing. This has good actors, good cinematography, but it's also as bland as can be. I don't get the perspective of this movie. Go watch Passion of the Christ instead.
All I care about is that I'm not still an assistant when I'm 28.
I'm 28.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. For you. That's very sad for you.
If you guys watch the show, you know that I am a sucker for rom-coms. I love me some rom-coms. I love When We First Met, I think is what it's called. This one wasn't bad. I got a lot of recommendations of people saying, yo, this one's really good. It's a good Netflix original movie. It's okay. Pretty much it's this cheesy rom-com where you got these two interns with these overbearing bosses, and they decide to hook them up so then the bosses can go date, and then they can finally be free and eventually, you know, maybe get together. And it was okay. What I would personally say is that Zoe Dutch, she's a fantastic actress, but I'm picking Haley Lou Richardson every day. Calibre is another Netflix movie that was getting a lot of hype because it was at some film festival and people were saying, yo, this is like this under the radar thriller. So obviously I had to catch it to talk about it. And it's not bad. It's a good movie. I just was not expecting it to be as depressing as it was. You got these two dudes who decide to go out, like, in the woods to go hunting, and something happens. Some people have, like, said it had Kill List vibes, so I can see, if you like Kill List, you liking this movie. But it doesn't go, like, fully how Kill List does. It's very depressing. That's how I would say it. Like, an accident happens, and it does not get better. Nancy was another Sundance film that I had caught, and it's pretty much the story where Andrea Riseborough, I believe is how you say her name, fantastic actress. She had a bunch of movies that she was working on. She's really good. In this one, she decides to pretend to be Nancy. She pretends to be this elderly couple's daughter who's been missing for years, and she comes in. And if you know me, I love The Imposters. This documentary, fantastic. Definitely watch that. I feel like I recommend it like every other week. But this movie, it's not that it's like very heavy on plot wise. Like there's not like these crazy twists and turns, which isn't a bad thing. It's more of a character study of what happens when someone really wants to be wanted. And then you have a couple who really wants to want someone, you know, someone they've been missing for years. And it's an interesting story, but it's, for me personally, a movie that I would watch if it's streaming on Netflix. This movie's messed up. Misandrists, whatever the word is that particularly means, is like misogyny, but for like females who just hate men completely. I don't really know why this is on the list, other than the fact that I have it at the tail end of the stream. It's because this movie showed me things I never wanted to see. You pretty much got this like covenant of women who are these ultra feminists who want to get rid of every man. They want to make pornographic propaganda. They want to take over the world. It's satire though. Like I know some people would be like, "Oh, this is complete garbage," but it's like the director is almost making fun of them while also like supporting them. It's weird. It's got like the style of The Lobster, where, you know, Yorgos always does like this stilted dialogue type thing where everybody speaks like this and they all talk like this. And bro, this is a Let Me Explain video that will probably get me banned. So now we got the renteds, right? If the streamits were the ones that, you know, you bumming the Netflix code or whatever it is off of somebody else, so you get to just watch those in the comfort of your house. These are the ones that I think are entertaining enough to get into your car and go get it at Redbox or even pay for the VOD, right? And the first one that I got is Tag. And my thing with this movie is that when it comes to a comedy, you can't really judge the plot. You got to judge how many hits they have to the misses. A little too many misses for me. I did make a video on this, which surprisingly, the title was supposed to be bait, not necessarily clickbait, because people don't know what quotations or the emoji means. What was funny was how it baited people who weren't upset about it, about what the title was, which was referring to an article that was written because of it. They were mad that they weren't able to yell at a social justice warrior. My main perspective of the movie is that, again, as a comedy, you need to have more hits than misses. And a lot of what they do is, like, it's based off of a true story, and they do have hints of it. But that's like 95%. There is a group of guys who play tag, and they've dressed up like a grandma. Everything else in this movie, including a twist in this movie that some of you is just going to leave a bad taste in your mouth, none of that happened.
Who are you? I'm here to make sure that he's tall enough to ride the ride that my man about to put him on.
Space Jam will always be superior, but Uncle Drew surprised me mainly because I didn't expect a movie funded by Pepsi to actually have some heart in it. There was good jokes in there, obviously a lot of filler. It's the reason why I would say it's a rented, not a theater movie, but I'm surprised that they were able to take Kyrie Irving short series that he posted on YouTube and make a cinematic universe out of it.
Good people didn't survive. We did.
This is a perfect rented. This is one of those movies where pretty much the story revolves around how America, all those chemtrails, they come true. They have these jets fly over, and like over half of the population dies because of these chemicals, but there's some people who survive, and they're known as the domestics. And in the movie, we follow this couple who's on their way to Milwaukee because they want to make it to the safe place. And while the first like half of it to me would have been more on the stream side, like it's like, oh, okay, you know, they're just going through the motions. When you get to this scene right here, that's where I was like, this is a rented. This was a fun movie. Like, once you get to this point, the movie does kind of like ride off of the coattails of Mad Max, where it's like you got people who don't just turn into like, you know, looters. They turn into damn apocalyptic like savages. But when you get to that second half, it's just like rented, crazy, gory fun. And for all of the film Twitter out there who keep posting about this, no. Liking gory movies does not make you a serial killer.
Wait. Every time you move it, we have to start from scratch.
What should you do?
Turn it on.
To wrap up this section is Ocean's 8. I like the original trilogy, 11, 12, and 13. This movie is exactly like those. Like, I'm not a person, obviously I was very critical on like, oh, they're just doing the gender swap thing again, you know, give females their own original properties, but it made sense, you know, it made sense because she was a sister of Danny Ocean. I honestly think that all of the mistakes this movie does, all of the incoherent stuff, it's the same thing that made the other three enjoyable, so I'm not gonna fault it for that. I think it fits right in with the other ones. Only thing is that they kept pushing how they were gonna have cameos for all of the original cast, or like a big amount of the original cast. Bro, ain't none of them show up. But I personally still enjoyed it for the heist film that it is. Again, you can enjoy a heist film and not actually be a thief. But it's a perfect rent, and I look forward to seeing what they do with it. Because obviously, if it's 11, 12, and 13, then 8, 9, 10 would be the other trilogy that leads up to it. Now, this is a new section that I'm adding in. I haven't done this for any of the other must watches, but I honestly, you know, if you're watching this, and you probably use YouTube a lot, and I feel like a lot of us actually consume most of our content on YouTube, and I kind of want to give it I wanted to give a shout out to the YouTubers out there who I think are making good content. Now, of course, this isn't like I am not of the perspective of the check out my mixtape mentality. Like, definitely do not spam people. That doesn't mean, you can definitely send me your stuff. I won't be able to catch up with all of it because I get like 50 requests a week. But I can personally tell you that as long as you're doing your hard work, I have never pitched or any of that stuff to my channel, never sent somebody else a link. My mentality has always been just make videos, and that's where it's gotten me to where I am, if that means anything at all. But I kind of wanted to return a favor that was kind of never given to me, right? Because I never really got a shout out from a big film channel, never really still do. The shout outs that I get are from lifestyle channels, so shout out to Samantha because I know you watch. So I kind of want to do that to like reach out to those people who I think are doing good work, and these are some of them. The first one being High Top Films. I literally caught these guys, and I want to say girl as well. I think it's a trio. They made this Spider-Man video. They have a Robin series that they're doing as well, which is specifically why they stood out to me. The Robin videos I thought were good, like fan fiction, but it was their videos, essays that they were doing where these guys' their comedy was on point. And I especially love how they made a video about Spider-Man Homecoming, and they're already getting that thing that I get every single time where people read the title and they go, why do you think that way? And it's like, bro, watch the 12-minute video that says why I think that way. I think they make good stuff, and I definitely love their style, so I would highly recommend them. As well as Brown Table, who's a dude that I've been watching for a little bit. And the same thing with both of these guys, right, is that they both make content, like original stuff to be critiqued. And that, I think, changes the perspective of when they're critiquing things. Like, Brown Table has this whole, like, spin-off fan version of Zootopia called Return to Zootopia. And he, like, animates the stuff, voices the stuff. So when I see them, like, being willing to create stuff to put out there that people can completely bash, that gives me a different perspective. So when I see them like critiquing something, it's not from that point of view of like, oh, that's terrible, but they've never made something, you know, that they're willing to put out there. I like both of these guys, so I would definitely say check them out. I highly recommend their video essays. They do good work there. And if you don't check out the podcast, the Intricate Podcast, you'll definitely be seeing them on there soon, even though I haven't even asked him yet. Another one who I really like, and this is, Film Riot isn't someone who needs my shout out, but I want to shout him out because a lot of people ask me who my inspirations are, and I remember before I took my first film class, I was watching Film Riot. All of you guys who always ask for tips and advice, bro, like, YouTube is just open and filled with those type of things. I remember when I was talking to like some of my film teachers, you know, the ones that was paying to teach me, and I was like correcting them on some stuff that Film Riot had taught me. And I've been watching these guys for the longest time, and they really like opened up all the behind the scenes stuff, which, you know, I'm like fascinated with that stuff, with directors and the intent and how they make things happen, and seeing them like just teach you that stuff, all the behind the scenes, before I even had the software to know what they were talking about. I thought it was incredible. And he's got this short film out there called Ballistic for free on YouTube. You can watch it. I thought the story was okay, but it's the action, it's the way that he films it that I thought was spectacular. And even better than that, like I said, is that he has an entire like series breaking down the editing, breaking down the behind the scenes shooting, how he scheduled stuff, how he worked with people. And the dopest thing about Ryan, who runs the channel, is that like he's always told you how it's a crew that makes a film. And this man can be as cocky as he can be, right? Like, this man runs Film Riot, and he has his own self-made business, but he's always shouting out everybody else who makes some, who helps him out with the short films that he does and with Film Riot, and like, he's the biggest inspiration. So if you guys have been trying to get into like making your own films and you're not watching Film Riot, definitely hop on that. Go check out Ballistic. Whether you like it, whether you don't, hopefully it opens up to all of the other tutorials and videos that they've been making for a long time. Alright, so now we got the junior prices. These are the ones that are worth watching in the theater. Y'all ain't always gonna agree with me on these. Jurassic World, look. I compared this movie to when you're at the gas station and you smell those fumes. They're not good for you. But you take another whiff. This movie is the exact dumb fun that I want it to be, right? Like, junior prices to me aren't always, you know, that matinee thing isn't always because it's like a grand story. It's just that you want to see it on a grand screen. And I think Jurassic World did that. It is the dumbest thing it can possibly be, right? But while I initially hated, and I know a lot of people don't like this movie, while I initially despised the fact of the idea of Rise of the Planet of the Raptors, why not?
Busy night at the Artemis.
You know, you might want to buy some scented candles or something, because it smells like somebody died in here.
They did.
Hotel Artemis is John Wick 2.5, as I'm sure a lot of people have told you this. It's this story about how in the future, LA has way more riots than they have right now, and there's this hotel made for criminals, and it's run kind of by criminals. It's got obviously assassins and all these other people who come into this place, and I thought it was an interesting movie. Not anything too crazy, but for those of you who are fans of John Wick, I think this is a good substitute until the third one comes down. For those of you who are always talking about like original properties, this movie had like Father John Misty in it, which surprised me because I didn't even know he was an actor. But I think it's like, it's an interesting world that would work best if they were able to like secure a miniseries on Netflix or HBO. Sicario Soldado. Two things on this, since I've talked about it. The first one being that I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a really good thriller. A lot of people in my Let Me Explain video were very high on the fact that they wanted things to connect. As someone who has an explained theory channel, I am very used to people wanting to see things that aren't there. Especially when the director says this.
Standalone movie with the same character based on the same world. So it's not a direct sequel of Sicario.
But I'm used to that. That's fine. I'm glad people enjoyed the movie. The second thing I would say from it is, man, it's super interesting. I had seen this back in February, right? I enjoyed it as a thriller. And there's more Walmarts now, if you're catching my drift. So the perspective of going into the movie is a little bit different now, which I found very interesting. When I see a couple of articles talking about, well, what about the Latino perspective? And I checked through it and realized that y'all only care about the Latino perspective when it can get you some clicks, huh? Y'all forgot you wrote that first Sicario review, and that's still out there, and you're pretending you have a problem with it now. Y'all ain't even following those Latino critics you were using. Hot Summer Nights stars Timothy acting through the credits, Chalamet. And it's not a great movie. It's an A24 movie that kind of feels like 20 other movies combined. It's got that Goodfellas voiceover as it's this coming of age movie in like an Ozark, Missouri type setting. That's these kids dealing drugs. I liked it, but I also really like Timothy Chalamet, so take that as you will. But I like the vibes that the movie was giving off.
You just can't fake that natural plastic aroma.
If you like John Oliver, or even if you don't like John Oliver, he does produce this show, but it's got less of that, I guess. It's there, but it's not as abrasive, the energy in it. This is, I think it's a series. I don't know if it's a mini-series, but this is season 1 of this dude named Wyatt, who kind of takes the comedic approach of covering problem areas, and he's got like his own set. It's not like a Pee Wee Herman set. It's like a futuristic space kind of set where he's got like Siri and whatever the Amazon one is, Alexa, giving him like advice and stuff like that. I like the way that it's cut. I like the way that he, like, you know, he's corny sometimes, but the way that he pretty much like pitches the show, and where it's like comedic and that allows you to like get hit with a right hook of seriousness, if you know what I'm talking about. I personally like it because, to me, he's got a very similar format, a similar production budget or production style that I hope to get for the A to Z show in 2019, if you get what I'm saying.
Johnny, you and I, we aren't done.
Cobra Kai surprised me. I'm not like super connected to the original ones that had come out, and when I saw this as a YouTube Red original series, I'm like, right, YouTube Red's only making like Smosh movies. It's only like canceling PewDiePie stuff. But people kept recommending it to me. My buddy's like, you gotta check this out. I checked it out when I binged the whole thing. I was surprised. I mean, you're on YouTube right now. I'm sure most of you got YouTube Red. Give it a watch. It's like corny Lifetime movies series, but for like guys. I liked it. I had missed this one at Sundance. It's like very few ones that I regret missing at Sundance, but I definitely regret switching out my tickets for this movie to the other movie that I had seen. Hearts Be Loud is just a feel-good movie. What really surprised me was that, the story's talking about, you got Ron Swanson and his daughter who create a band, but she's about to go off to school to become a doctor, so they're kind of like in the midst of, well, they're really poor, and, she's got to go to school, but could she stay back and kind of, create this band as they kind of get a little bit of a hit single on Spotify? I think it's really interesting in two ways. One, in how Spotify playlists can really like boost you up and get you some attention because those playlists get millions of views. But the other one being how you can take a movie like this and not go the cliche route. That's what I really enjoyed about the movie, is it's not this grand thing like I thought it was going to be. It's literally just showing you what happens when, father-daughter bonding moment and they're able to come together. I'm gonna also use this as a segue because I just literally rewatched this movie again, another Sundance movie which I highly enjoy, Band-Aid. This movie's from 2017. It's got nothing to do with June's must-watch, but it's a must-watch regardless of. I'm gonna sneak it in there. Watch Band-Aid.
The screenslaver interrupts this program for an important announcement.
Suit up. It might get weird.
I'll be there ASAP.
Where you going ASAP? You better be back ASAP.
Wrapping up this segment is Incredibles 2, which I had said that I prefer Incredibles 2 over Incredibles 1, and I know that upset a couple of people, but you know what? It's your fault for holding me high to that standard. Now, I can only tell you what I enjoy, right? I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't not that I hated Incredibles 1 in any way, shape, or form. You guys just know I'm a Finding Nemo person. That's what Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., that's what I was rewatching the most. But rewatching The Incredibles, and I've actually seen it again after Incredibles 2, and okay, it's up there. Like, they're both hand in hand for me personally. I just like Incredibles 2 because, Jack was dope. Helen was doing her thing. This shot is iconic. And let's be honest, out of all of the sequels, the Pixar sequels that have been out there, this one's the best one. So now we got the must-watches, the movies that I highly recommend. Some of you may have just skipped to this. Some of you have been leading up to this. These are the movies that I adore. And the first one is The Last Jedi. I'm just kidding.
You want to wrestle with mommy? So when you're older, you can talk about it with your therapist.
First of the top 5 is Glow. This is a TV series or Netflix series. Can we call it TV if it's not really on TV? This is on Netflix. It's on its second season. It's about a true story of the women of wrestling. I forget what the anagram is, the acronym is for the title, but I absolutely adore this show. I remember seeing season 1. I was like, this is not good. Well, a really good show. Somehow season 2 is even better. I'm gonna tell you this right now for the dudes who may think, oh, this isn't the show for me. Bro, watch it. And don't just watch it for the ladies. Watch it because like this thing actually makes an impact. Specifically, and I haven't even finished season 2, but season 2, I want to say it's episode 4, where it's dissecting the character of the welfare queen. And usually any other show takes this character and makes him a side B character. Like, they don't really care about this character's dialogue. Man, they took this character and there's an interaction by the end of that specific episode between someone who is easily embarrassed and can easily shame another person, and doesn't. And if you've seen it, you know, I'm recommending it, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Then on top of that, I want to say it's episode 5 where a specific hotel scene happens. Again, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil it. That scene was done so well. And look, I'll even critique it because the following interaction between two characters after the hotel scene, I thought was a little like, it makes sense between the two characters, like arguing, I kind of got it, but like when you see the hotel scene, you're like, whoa, this is like super subtle, you know, like this is something that a lot of people talk about, but when you see it done, when you actually care for that character, you're like, yo, am I doing my part? Am I like the other guy who went to go get the menus? But there's a certain argument that happens after that, and it was like, you know, the subtlety that you guys just perfectly had. Someone grabbed a soapbox and just hit you with it. That's just my opinion on that particular scene, but I highly recommend this series. Definitely watch it. The comedy is great, but just the story and the characters are better. Nanette was one that I got a lot of recommendations for. Some people were hitting me up on Instagram. I had buddies hitting me up on Facebook about it. A couple of people on Twitter. And it's this comedy stand-up special on Netflix about someone telling you that they're gonna leave comedy. Pretty much, you know, I'm not gonna say that all the jokes hit because there is comedy in there, and she talks about quitting comedy. I don't know if she's really saying that, but what really hits you with it is that the comedy wasn't even the important part about this. Like, this is a stand-up where she's standing up for something else. I'm gonna tell you, like, this hit me in a way that I did not think it would. I definitely think it's a must watch just for the message alone, because she straight up breaks it down. She's like, look, I'm not shaming anyone here. I'm just telling you my story, and I'm sick and tired of my story being the butt of jokes that I myself have made those jokes of. It's on Netflix. I would say definitely check it out. I'm not gonna ruin her entire story. Go watch it and definitely let me know your thoughts.
Oh yeah! Alright! Some for the homies and some for me!
I love this movie. The final 3 that I have up here were all like Sundance picks, and again, as you know, like I said, with the letterbox, all of these are rearrangeable, and honestly, all of these 3 can be. I love Sorry to Bother You because of how crazy it is. I'm not going to spoil what it's about. I almost feel like this could be 1, but I'm not putting my recency bias because I just recently saw it again. It is bonkers, and I absolutely adore the way that this movie handles satire and its message, and I'm again not going to spoil it for you, but I will say that rap scene, bro, I want to make a whole video just on that rap scene alone. The specific insult scene that happens, it's one of the funniest scenes in the year in my opinion. And Lakeith Stanfield losing his damn mind, some of you are not going to like this movie. Please give this movie a chance, because if you're riding with it, you're going to love it. Now, I've said my piece on Hereditary. You guys already know. I've been hyping it up. Some people didn't like it. That's okay. As always, my 5 must-watch movies are just the ones that I recommend for you guys to watch, and then you guys let me know your thoughts on it. I pretty much said everything about Hereditary, and while this would be number 1, it's actually higher on my list on Letterboxd than it is right now. I just, like I said, things vary, and at this particular moment in time, I don't want something as demonic and very well made, very well crafted. You guys know I love Hereditary. I've spoken about it. I gotta end it with something that's still to this day, since I've seen the screening, it's so inspirational.
Won't you please, please won't you be my neighbor?
Now I know my biases, right? I know that if you probably weren't raised on this guy, like watching him or seeing the reruns like I did, maybe you're not as close to him, right? Maybe it's not going to hit you as hard. Doesn't mean that it won't, because the guy's still dope. But, like, this thing doesn't even do anything special per se. It's literally just a montage of clips of Mr. Rogers. And, man, I loved Won't You Be My Neighbor. Like, this is a dude who's been a positive role model for the longest time. And the message in this at a point in time, and I'm not like a person to be like, oh, this is definitely special for this specific. I think it doesn't matter what time it is. I think you can put this movie in a capsule and watch it 40, 50, 1,000 years from now, and this is a dude who deserves a documentary. I personally saw a bunch of his stuff growing up. I'm wearing the cardigan, but there's a particular point in this movie that really stuck out to me. It's not just the way that he, and I know this, like watching the movie, I realized how much, having seen so much of his reruns, he subliminally would put messages in his show and I realized, you guys know this. Every movie and album or TV show that I cover on the A to Z show, that's what makes it different from Let Me Explain, because on the A to Z show, all these things that I cover, it's just an excuse to talk about how I really feel about things. And the way that he used this kid's show, and he used puppets to really express some very deep things. Like, watching this movie, I realized, bro, this man's a bigger inspiration than just a cardigan. This man, like, just the way that he handled, the way that he expressed his things through story and through art, like, it impacted me a lot more than I realized it. Like, Mr. Rogers is the reason why you guys have the A to Z show. And the biggest impact that I would say that I'll leave it with, that I'll end it and wrap this video on, was that there's a particular point in the documentary where they show you how people hated Mr. Rogers. There was still people who did not like Mr. Rogers for whatever reason, to the point that they even were like rioting. They were like protesting outside of his funeral when it happened. And as I was thinking about that, right, I realized that for any creator who's out there, you always get those people who, you know, there's criticism, and you can take that criticism and you grow from that criticism. And then there's just people who just want to tear you down. There's that hate. And you know that you can have like the cleanest wall, but that one speck will like it just sticks with you. You can get 1,000 positive comments saying they love what you're doing, but those 5 negative ones that like really get at you, not your work, but at you, they bother you. You know, I'm gonna be straight with you, they do. But when you see someone like Mr. Rogers even getting that back in the day, that even he got hate, and this man to me was an inspiration. Bro, all I can say is, if you're a creator and you're following what you love and it's not hurting anybody else, then keep moving forward. Because if Mr. Rogers got hate, then nothing should be stopping you. Thank you guys for watching this. Like I said, the whole list is down below, so even if you were skipping around or you want to go back, that whole list is down below. The letterbox as well, I got all the links down there. But as always, a big shout out to the patrons. You know, you guys help with this video. Obviously, all of the videos are always free. I see Patreon as just like a tipping jar, and I appreciate you guys over there. And I have been working on some other stuff. The extra show perks, I've talked about the trivia show, having the patrons come on for Cineclash, the live watch-along thing that I want to do for Let Me Explain over there. Because again, the Patreon isn't just for like the A to Z show. I have the Patreon cover all 3 shows. So literally for just $1, I think it's like 33.33 cents per channel. You support all the channels, and honestly, it helps. I want to make these videos free always, but for those who for just $1 help out over there, I appreciate it. I want to start up a bunch of other things over there, and I just want to say shout out to you guys, and shout out to you guys who don't donate. Those of you who comment and share every single video, just want to say
You are special.